अलकाताईंची गोष्ट आणि जगणं जितकं समृद्ध तितकंच प्रेरणादायी. आता गोष्ट ऐकूया डॉक्टर नीला बकाणे यांची. नागपूरची एक गोल्ड मेडलिस्ट डॉक्टर, ते अमेरिकेतील 2 मुलांची आई, का अजून पुढे काही? मुलं, संसार, संस्कृती आणि ध्येयपूर्ती, अनेक पेडी गोल्स आणि त्या पाठीमागे लागून सगळं मिळवू शकलेल्या, येस यू कॅन हॅव इट ऑल, असं काहीसं पटवून देणाऱ्या डॉक्टर नीलांची गोष्ट त्यांच्याचकडून ऐकूयात.
Hello, me Neela Bakane. I was requested to speak about my medical field experience as a physician from India and settling in practice in America. Back home, after MBBS and internship at Nagpur Medical College, I joined the residency for general surgery. My first rotation, I met Dr. Ramesh, who was a senior resident. He was a gold medalist and a top student of his class. We got married soon after, and then I wanted to join general surgery, and everybody was trying to discourage me and pushing me towards the gynecology field, which was a traditional for female physicians, but I was determined and I joined for MS, general surgery. Meanwhile, my husband passed his MS with gold medal. He got a lecturer's position and in a few months got promoted as a reader. He was transferred to Aurangabad and I continued my post-graduation in Nagpur. I was working day and night till about a week before my delivery. I had passed my MS exam meanwhile with a gold medal, but the convocation was the same day as my delivery and I was unable to attend that. My husband decided to move to USA at this time for further training. We both came with our 2-month-old baby to Worcester, Massachusetts. While he joined the residency program, in surgery, I did my ECFMG exam, which was required to get into residency training. I had to wait until my second child was born to join the program. This was a new role for me as a housewife, left with a newborn and a 16-month-old baby. My husband was extremely busy in his training, and he could only take off one day when the day I delivered. The rest of the time I was left alone. And this was driving me pretty crazy. I decided to start my surgical internship. I applied for general surgery and got interview with the chief of surgery there. I thought he was going to ask me some surgical treatment questions. Instead, he looked at my resume and asked me what position did I play hockey during my college days. Then the next was, how will I manage to care for my 2 babies? Perhaps get somebody from India for help. But since our siblings were still young, neither my mother or my mother-in-law could come. And I did not want to send my children back home to be raised by the grandparents. I started my internship. There used to be call every other night. I had to get up, get the children dressed and ready and leave them with the babysitter by 6 o'clock in the morning so I could get on time to my morning rounds. Sometimes I would be a little late and the chief was already there. Surgery started around 7:30 and most of the days will be in surgery. If I found any time in between, I could try to sneak home, which was across the hospital, and try to cook something. If there were some emergency problems, I would be stuck there and I would be late coming home, and that of course upset my babysitters. which is understandable. Every other night, either me or my husband were on call. Sometimes the schedules messed up and we were on call the same night. I had to try to switch calls with other interns to ensure that one of us could stay home with the children. And this was a constant hassle for us. When on call, the hospital operator would call and my babies would be crying. Sometimes I felt like crying myself. The operators were familiar with this and they would sympathize. Once you get called, you may be stuck there 3-4 hours and before you can return, and barely get any sleep and get up in the morning and repeat the same cycle. There was no catering of Indian food or any place that you could get something ready-made. So when you come home in the evening, you end up cooking and cleaning. My husband helped in looking after the babies as much as he could. Once my 8-month-old got sick with diarrhea, and that time I realized that my career is not my first priority. My husband had a good surgical experience in India during his training, and he was not very happy with the training here. So he thought it would be better if we go back to India in a couple of years and maybe work someplace, make some money, and then go back and start our own practice. So we applied, and there was some need for physicians in the rural areas. We immediately got an interview, but we couldn't take off more than a day. So we decided, we flew to Nashville airport early morning, met with the person who interviewed us at the airport. He offered us both jobs in the place. So we took a return flight and came back after signing the contract. We had no knowledge how to negotiate for salary or anything. The surgical chief who I was working there wanted me to finish my residency term, but I could not have stayed by myself because I had a problem leaving the children at night if I was on call. So then we all moved to this little town in mountains of West Virginia. For the next 2 years, we worked there at the medical clinic. It was 9 to 5 job, no night calls, and I had a very good a middle-aged American lady as a babysitter. She really loved the children, and life was much relaxed here. So during this time also we got our green card. I did my state board for license and I got a West Virginia license at this time. After this we moved to Tennessee for a couple of years. People were nice and supportive. I enjoyed taking the kids to swim lessons, Cub Scouts and so on. Now it was time and we returned to India as planned. We sold some stuff and then we gave away some. And then we thought we are not coming back, so we shipped a lot of medical gadgets and electronic items, etc. We were planning to leave in about 4 or 5 weeks. However, the shipment reached before and we had no time to wrap up the household or the practice. So then I had to leave with my children and some of the medical equipment. in a hurry. So I went to Mumbai, and my uncle was there, and there was a clearing agent. So they helped us to sort out those things. Later on, I went to Nagpur and then rented a house from an acquaintance. After about a week or so, then my husband returned and he joined us. Now we started our practice in Nagpur. My husband was well known for his academic success and surgical skills, and he established his practice pretty good. I used to work in the morning, mostly after leaving the children to school, getting them ready. They were in preschool and kindergarten at that time. And then I had to get back from work to pick them up. So I didn't go to the evening clinic. Unless I had a patient, a post-op patient, then I would go and see them. Also, we had a lot of house guests and visitors, and that kept me pretty busy with my household responsibilities. So in about 2 years, my husband wanted to come back to do his urology training. So we wrapped up our practice in Nagpur again and returned to Tennessee, where we were before. In about a year, he got a position in St. Louis as a urology resident, and we moved again. So by now, I counted, I think it was about 20 some apartments and houses I have moved from. Situations were a lot different by now for foreign graduates. While my husband was doing his urology residency, I tried applying, but most of the places would not take foreign medical graduates. They would only take the local graduates from there. And it was not possible for me to leave the town and live in some other city to do a residency. So in about 2.5 years or so, my husband finished his residency. We moved to Indiana State, where he started his practice. I was a bit frustrated for not being able to work unless I fulfilled the residency requirement. Each state has a different requirement, and I was looking for something. There was a veterans hospital in our town. Since this was a federal institution, they would accept physicians with any one state license in the US. Since I had done my flex exam and state boards for West Virginia, I had the West Virginia license. So applied for job in this VA hospital. Initially they didn't respond, but then someone suggested I could probably do some volunteer position. So I contacted them and I said maybe I should work as a volunteer physician in their outpatient department. So then I got a call from the chief of staff. He interviewed me, and then he offered me an intermittent position to cover for physicians who were on vacations or if they were sick. Now they started calling me almost every day in the morning. I would get a call, "Oh, can you come?" So lot of physicians there were calling sick to use their sick leaves and vacation times. So they liked my work and they said, "Why don't you just work full time? We are just calling you every day." So I said, I had done a couple of night calls for them before. So I did not want to work full time, because if you do the 8-hour shift, you have to take night calls. And this facility had something like 40 or 35 buildings. Lot of psychiatric patients, and they were in the locked buildings. And then in the night you have to walk to different buildings. And I heard some scary stories, and so I thought it might be better if I just work 7 hours daily. So, and that was for weekdays, no night calls. The salary was lower, and the benefits were less, but I could choose my hours. So I worked between 9 to 4:30, and then I'll be back home by the time the kids were back from school. The staff members were good and supportive. There were a lot of other physicians, international, from different countries there. So I worked in the medical inpatient and outpatient units here. In the outpatient, some of the patients were very demanding, and they wanted pain medications, sedatives, etc. If you didn't give them, they would be upset and go to the chief of staff. And then you get a call and you're obliged to do that. And this was kind of against what I believed. And so, yet I worked there for 5 years. By now my children were in high school. So I thought maybe I'll look for a residency training again, fulfill the state requirement. That way I could do some private practice. The closest program was about 50 miles away. But I applied there, got a position. Everybody thought I was, including my husband, that I was crazy to leave a good paying job, easy job, and go in the residency with some fresh graduates. Anyway, I started my family practice residency. It was a daily commute of 50 miles each way. If I was on call, I would stay there for the night. Otherwise, I would try to come home by 6:30. Morning, I had to leave about 5:45 in the morning, whether it was rain, snow, ice, no excuse, and return home next day, 6:30. Even after previous night calls, you had to work full day. Usually after coming home, you manage your household stuff, cooking. If I was on call next day, I would cook extra for the next day. So there were a couple of other ladies like me, but they were staying in town in the same where the residency program was. Most of our staff was good and supportive. We were supposed to see our patients even if not on call, especially the pregnant ones. That meant that sometimes you're driving back home halfway or you're almost close to home, you have to turn around and go back to the hospital. But later our co-residents helped those who were on call, and we helped each other. So you always have some nice people and some nasty ones. Finally, 3 years later, I started my private practice in our town in the same office as my husband. I did hospital patients as well as outpatient. So we were busy day and night, but there was no more 100-mile driving each day, so it felt like a piece of cake. Another 10 years, and then we wanted to move south to the warmer climate. So we moved to Virginia after closing our Indiana practice. So we worked for HCA Systems. This is a little different from your own practice, with no more headaches of billing the insurance, making sure the employees are billing properly. They don't show up for work some days, and they try to steal your money. So and those things were over with since we worked for the HCA here. My husband has decided to retire in Atlanta, so about 9 years ago we moved here to Atlanta. I have been working off and on at urgent care as a needed basis since I was not ready for full-time retirement. But now we are enjoying our social life here. We survived through lots of ups and downs, and we tried to do our best under the circumstances. And this is our story, like many probably who came in the 70s. Despite all the hard work, we always found people to socialize and enjoyed our life. We came across some good American people, some good other people from other countries, besides, of course, our Indian community. We have time now for travel and enjoy it. So I think I'll stop there, and I want to thank Maharashtra Mandal Atlanta for showcasing our stories. Thank you, Mandar and Prajakta. I really appreciate you helping me recording this session. So thank you again. Thank you, everybody.